I'd like to provide a full list of resources I referenced during this course. If you have a full Pluralsight subscription, then you have an access to the source code of the project we were working on. If not, here is a link to it on GitHub. The other references regard to the topics we discussed in this course. This is my blog post on integration testing, where I give an example of how to employ it in a typical DDD project. A question on Stack Overflow with a good explanation why you should always override the getHashCode method when you are overriding the equals method in your class. Here I write about different approaches to unit testing, namely test-first and code-first approaches. This is a nice explanation of what high-low algorithm is. In this video, Eric Evans gives a talk about bounded contexts with regards to microservices and also provides a good example of what context mapping is. Martin Fowler and James Lewis have written a great article on the topic of microservices, so if you want to learn more about it, it's a go-to resource. Here I write about cohesion and coupling and how these notions relate to each other. In this post I describe different types of CQRS. The use of DTOs you saw in the previous modules essentially goes under the first type of it. This article depicts the fail-fast principle, and here you can read more about anemic domain model. We've made a great progress in this course. We've built a small but fairly complex application from the very beginning using domain-driven design principles. You saw how DDD helps us focus on the essential parts of the software, its domain model, and how it allows us to simplify this model and thus keep it maintainable in the long run. You learned the differences between entities and value objects, how to keep the model isolated in the face of working with a relational database and an ORM, how to work with aggregates, repositories, bounded contexts, and domain events. You also saw how DDD plays with unit testing and MVVM design pattern. Feel free to contact me, here is my email, Twitter handle and blog. This is Vladimir Horikov, thank you for listening.